All right, today's notes are going to be on tests for parallelograms. It really flows off what we already did here in lesson 7.2. And so 7.3 uses a lot of the similar rules. The first slide here isn't really something you should write down, but it is really important just because you need to understand. So all the rules we had before were starting with if it's a parallelogram. And so this was the place we started. And now it's the place we end. They're like the reverse. And so before was if it's a parallelogram, then opposite sides are congruent. And so today we're going to go through the reverse of it. So if both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, then it's a parallelogram. This is my chicken scratch version of it right here. If both sets of opposite sides congruent, then it's a parallelogram. Right? And so you need to write this down, have that in your notes. Now, why is that important? Well, once you see opposite sides are congruent, then you know the whole thing is a parallelogram. So now it allows you to prove it. Also, now you can use all of the other parallelogram rules. And so you would know angle A is congruent to angle C. Or you would know angle A and angle D make 180. Or angle D and angle C combine to make 180. Okay? So I can use all of those other parallelogram rules once I know it's a parallelogram. So this is one of the ways. The next way is both. And again, it's both. Both pairs of opposite angles. If both pairs or sets of opposite angles are congruent, then the whole thing's a parallelogram. Right? So you're going to get questions that'll ask something like, is this a parallelogram? Yes, no, why? Justify. You're going to be like, yeah, because opposite angles are congruent, so it has to be parallelogram. Now you would know all the other rules apply. So like if you drew the diagonals in, you would know they bisect each other, which is where we're going next. If both diagonals, and again, it's both diagonals bisect each other. So a lot of times they try to trick you with you. They'll draw both diagonals, but they only put marks that one got split into two equal parts. You need both. Both diagonals get split into two equal parts, then the whole thing's a parallelogram. Right? There's really two more rules, but for our class, we're only going to add in one more rule, and it's this one, one pair. So this is unique. This is different. You only have one pair of opposite sides, and they're marked congruent. Those little tick marks mean they're congruent. One pair is not enough unless it's both things. So you see two marks here. It needs to be marked both parallel and congruent. The little arrow means parallel. The little tick mark there means congruent. So, is this one a parallelogram? And why? If you said yes, you're right. The why is because both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, which makes it a parallelogram. This is the tricky one. When they give you ones like this, they're totally trying to see if they can trick you out. Right? You have 14 at top. You have 14 down here at the bottom. So obviously those sides are congruent. But you don't have the other sides. We have 100 here and 80 here. And now we have to review all the way back. We called these at one point same side interior angles. And if you remember, if lines are parallel, same side interior angles would be like here and here. and they have to add up to 180. These two add up to 180. And so therefore these lines are parallel. So now the top and bottom are both parallel and congruent. And so now you can say, yes, it's a parallelogram. One pair of opposite sides is both parallel and congruent. Again, that is the tricky one where they are trying to make you remember that rule. These ones are find the value of x or find the value of y that would make it a parallelogram. And really it's just asking, it's not any different than what we were doing before when we started with, if it, it is a parallelogram in 7.2, it is a parallelogram, so solve for x and solve for y. Right? And just because we have these values now, it would become a parallelogram instead of knowing it is to find it. Right? And so I'm just going to do the same kind of work here. So I want like the opposite angles to be congruent. So I'm going to write this down as 7x equals 56. Divide by 7 on both sides. I get x equals 8. And then I'm going to set up the other one as 4y plus 4 equals 5y minus 26. And minus the 4y over, that's what I would do first. And minus the 4y to both sides. I get 4 equals y minus 26. What do I do next? I would add 26 over. And that gives me 30 equals y, which is the same as y equals 30. So I have my x, I have my y. If I plug those in, it would make the angles congruent, and so therefore it would be a parallelogram. Same kind of thing here. If it was a parallelogram, the diagonals would bisect each other. And so first let's find the x. 3x minus 1 equals 2x plus 3 minus 2x over. Add the 1 over, you get x equals 4. Take a minute right now, pause the video, and try to solve the y. All right, hopefully you were able to successfully find y. In this case, you would first subtract 4y, get 2y minus 1 equals 3. Add 1 over, 2y equals 4. Divide by 2, you get y equals 2. Right. There it goes. Thanks for watching.